Speak as you can, please. Yes, you. Right, ladies and gentlemen, could I welcome you all to this meeting of the East Lindsey District Council Planning Committee. I'd like to welcome Councillor Bristow, who is substituting for Councillor Watson. We're delighted to see her here and hope she enjoys her time with us. Begin with oh, hang on. Better we're live streamed, aren't we? Right. Sorry, I got the right bit. Yeah. There's no fire. Yeah, exactly. Ooh, no fire drill today. Only those members of the public who are registered to speak may do so. So I'm afraid we'll have to stick to that very closely. So if you're not a registered speaker, you've had it, I'm afraid. And if there's any members retiring from speaking, they must go across, that's Councillor Avison, across the road, and then you can watch it on the television. Okay, kick off with apologies for absence, if we may.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies received from Councillors Terry Knowles, Kate Marnock, Robert Watson and Rue Yardley, and Councillor Steph Bristow is substituting.
Thank you. Declarations of interest, please. Councillor Jones.
I'm ward councillor for the for Stickney, but I've had no contact or information about this application.
Thank you. Councillor McNally.
Yeah, sorry, Chairman, it's not a declaration, but I couldn't catch you in time.
Sorry.
Alex Hall, Councillor Hall, sends his apologies.
Jolly good, thank you. Drainage boards, all of us.
Chairman, those Lindsey Marsh Drainage Board.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's all of us. It's a block declaration, hopefully, and any other drainage boards that. Okay, I'd just like to add that I've been lobbied by a member of the public in a very pleasant fashion with regard to item 6. Oh. Right, are you happy with the minutes of the previous meeting? Can I sign them as being a true and correct record, please? Thank you. Second, thank you. Right, an update from the planning policy, if we may, please.
Thank you, Chairman. How nice of you all to see me. We had a very short meeting. All it was really was to consider the responses to the consultation for Belchford and Thurlby Neighbourhood Development Plan. We only lasted 18 minutes, I think, but yeah, that's all I've got to say, and I'll shut up.
Yeah, I'm sorry you haven't more to tell us, but anyway, there we are. Right, we'll move on to the first application, if we may, which is item 5 on your agenda. Please.
Thank you, Chairman. First item is an outline application for 2 dwellings with all matters reserved for subsequent approval at the Memorial Lawn at Main Street and Mary Le Fen. Just a quick reference to the supplementary agenda. In the formally published agenda, there was a couple of issues with the last 2 conditions. So condition 10, it had the policy missed out of the reason for the condition. So the supplementary agenda just shows what the reason would look like with that policy number in. And then also there was a condition at number 11. It said wording to be forward. That was can be deleted. There was nothing to be forwarded. Okay, just to make that clear. Okay, so if we move into the slide. Whoops. My water everywhere.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is Maryland Fen Village, the A155, which is the main road through the village, called Main Street in front of the site. The application site is this green area here. That's the memorial lawn, the memorial hall, this position here, the bowling club pavilion and the bowling club. Pub, which is a listed building, is on this corner here. And there's the footway that just goes down the side between this bungalow and the memorial lawn, which goes to the bowling club. Oops, wrong way, sorry. Okay, so just that in a bit more detail. Should be red, but it's clearly been copied in black and white. So this thick black line here is the application site. Again, the application site shown here, the memorial lawn with the hall in this position, bowling green, etc. to the rear. The application is outlined with all matters reserved for subsequent approval if members wanted to approve the application today. But this is an indicative plan to show how you might get two bungalows within, sorry, two dwellings, I should say, sorry, within this site. So access in a central position, turning area and parking areas and two dwellings. Very basic plan, but shows you can get two dwellings comfortably on that site. I've included this plan just for members' information, really, so it shows a greater picture of the village. And in the report, there's quite a bit of talk about where alternative facilities have been provided in the village. So I thought it'd be helpful just to show members where they were on a plan. So the memorial lawn is here, where my cursor is. The memorial hall in this position, the bowling club at the back. And then if you just come along Main Street, they put this little road here. At the very end of here is the church. And this is the new Village Hall Community Centre with its car park and the open area around it. And the equipped play area that's got planning permission, which we talk about in the report, where the funding, the gap funding will be provided from the sale of the land if permission's granted, is in this kind of position here. As you can see, it's all doing a relatively short walk, cycle away from the site, the application site. So plans, this is clearly an old picture of the site, but it shows the memorial hall in better days, the land when it was used by the bowling club, side bungalow, and that was just agricultural land. Much more recent photograph showing the memorial hall in a rather neglected looking state, the memorial lawn itself, the bowling club pavilion, the bowling green behind, and there's the footway here at the side of this bungalow which runs down the side and to the bowling green, the bowling club. So this bungalow obviously is alongside the site, has stone windows along its side. The memorial hall has got planning permission to be removed and bungalow erected on that site as well. Some grasscrete here, which would go if members approve the application. The bus stop referred to in the applications, sorry, I should have showed you on the site plan, but is just at this side of the memorial hall. So this is a view, slightly different direction, different angle. For the bowling green filling at the back there. Second, looking down the footway. And then this is from the bottom of the footway, so Main Street is up here, and looking back towards the main road, Memorial Hall there. So it's this side here. And that's it. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome two speakers with regard to this application. This is Heather Palmer, who's here to support as applicant, Mr. Philip Roberts. I think it's you to go first, Adam, or Ms. Sorry. You've got 3 minutes and in your own time. Start when you're ready.
My name's Heather Palmer and I'm a trustee of the Merriman Fen Village Hall and Memorial Lawn Charity. The lawn was purchased in the early 1920s, administered by a committee and used for recreation, but was subject initially to hiring rules and charges, so did not start its life as a free access recreation space. It remained that way, and by 1955 the hall and lawn were separately administered by the parish council, and the lawn became the permanent home of the Bowls Club, which was always for private members only. The Bowls Club occupied the lawn for the following 65 years, and the lawn fell into disuse after the community centre was deemed unfit and the Bowls Club relocated, other than a brief spell by a local croquet club. And it has remained that way ever since. It was never really used as a free public recreation area. The Trustees Charity Scheme makes provision for the sale of land no longer required for charity purposes, and strictly within those guidelines, authority to sell the land was given at a public meeting where all residents over the age of 18 were given a chance to vote. The lawn is a financial burden on the charity and the sale is essential. There is a loan with interest and ongoing insurance and maintenance fees for a piece of land which is both unused and producing no revenue. We now have a wonderful new community centre with sufficient green space around it for village fetes, picnics and ball games. The conditions put on the sale of the land have actually protected that space as such. So we've already protected something that wasn't previously protected under the original lawn and memorial hall. There's an active play area committee trying to raise funds to provide a play area for the village, which is something it has never had. The play area has always been a high priority for the trustees, but with all the hold-ups and determined hindering from a small but very active group with personal agendas, grants have been lost, extra costs incurred, and funds have never been available. Also, with the challenging economic climate, raising capital is becoming more and more difficult. Selling the lawn without planning permission would enable the trustees to settle the loan, but there would be little left for anything else. What we are aiming for is to realise the maximum price for the lawn, which would require approval, obviously, of the planning application. This would give us the necessary funds to repay the loan and carry out essential maintenance within the centre. The trustees have already agreed with the playgroup committee that in the event of planning permission being granted for residential development of the lawn and the sale being completed, we will fund the entire shortfall of the play area committee, subsequently supporting the provision of a brand new community facility. We are also under no illusion that if planning is denied and the lawn is sold as is, buyers may well sit on it, leaving it unused until they feel a fresh application would have a positive outcome. This would be an investment for a private concern as opposed to having financial benefit coming back into the community.
Thank you very much. Nearly perfect timing. Thank you. I'd like to welcome our second speaker, Mr. Philip Roberts. You also have 3 minutes and state your case and start when you're ready, please.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Philip Roberts. I'm here, not as your county councillor, as I have the privilege of being so, but as the chairman of the Memorial Lawn Preservation Society. We are a group of local patriotic villagers, which number over 35, who wish to save our registered World War I war memorial to continue and commemorate the sacrifice made by our brave villagers over 100 years ago and was gifted in perpetuity in the will of the late Georgina Kime, of which I live in her house, so opposite. I can see that you've been very thorough with assessing this application, and I thank you for this. It's a very complicated and controversial case, and the fact that you agreed that the planning application with a section 106 to ensure the funds go to the vital play equipment, I have young children, means that you understand that the charity, unfortunately, has in the past not been trusted to spend the money as it should be. Selling the lawn for the play equipment as the main reason was actually a smokescreen, as they need the funds to repay the charity loan, which I believe is costing the community centre almost £3,000 a year in interest. My two main concerns, and I'm not going to go into the history because everybody's seen the actual pack that I provided. My two main concerns that aren't addressed in the pack is the rift in the community that has formed due to the way the charity in the past has treated its villagers and the effect on their wish to use the new community centre. I'm actually a trustee, not trustee, sorry, I'm actually a volunteer at the centre as well. This is a serious issue, and I've spoken to many people who say they will never use the community centre due to this. I don't think it helped that in 2015, in the original vote, which was a vote no to sell the lawn, it was billed as a once-in-a-lifetime vote, only to come back in 2022 when they vitally need funds. ELDC's remit is for the well-being of the parishioners in the village. If a lawn is built on, this could never be mended, and I would only provide more animosity for the community centre and make it more financially viable. Financial situation of the village hall is another issue that I really point. The Memorial Lawn Charity and the community centre is also a big concern. I have reason to believe that the last AGM, the chairman said that they have enough money to operate until Christmas, at which point they may have to close. This is hearsay. However, looking at the accounts, they are £3,000 down in income versus expenditure. I suggest that you ask the chairman if this is the case. I suspect that it has been caused by the lack of use and the burden of the £36,000 loan. The lawn, yeah, this surely needs to be confirmed before you grant the application, because if they do file for bankruptcy, and I hate this to happen, I don't want it to happen, but if this happens, is the lawn an asset, and will it be sold anyway to pay the £36,000 loan? And if the lawn is sold, will the funds in the bank be claimed by the receivers anyway? Would ELDC take on the running of the community centre? This has to be seriously considered before you agree this to happen, because unfortunately, it's not unfortunate in my case, but it is on the case of the community centre. Because of the 106, they cannot use it to pay off the loan and use it for day-to-day running expenses. And I fear seriously, just to finish, because I know I'm over time, the solution: decline the application. We do not need any more properties built. We've had 2 large projects built recently. Let the Memorial Lawn Preservation Society take over the running of the lawn and potentially turn it into a memorial garden with the help of the 35 members, thus honouring our soldiers as it was originally gifted for. And finally, get funding from other sources for the play equipment, from ELDC, including the grassroots, Pride funds, and other ones which are
that'll have to do with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, would anybody like to ask either of our speakers a question, please? Somebody should, yeah. Councillor McNally.
Thank you, Chairman. Just the applicant, really. There's not a lot of unfounded allegations, I think, being made in that statement. Has anyone in the past contacted yourself to make into a garden?
Thank you. Councillor Bristow.
Yes, thank you. Are you aware of recent denials of planning for new dwellings in the area that are overturned on appeal because we are not meeting the target for new housing? And in my opinion, I think that if this went to the planning inspectorate for appeal, it would be held up, or it would be allowed, because of the fact that we are not meeting the target of new housing in East Lindsey. Are you aware of that situation?
Chairman, can I just say that this is not a planning consideration that we should be taking into account?
Well, it has merit as far as they're concerned, but right, we'll move on. Have we a further speaker? I'd just like to point out that we are a planning committee, and the unfortunate circumstances that we find ourselves in, or Mayor finds themselves in, he said, you said, I said, or whatever, they're not our business, really. So if we can address any planning issues and then any further questions for that, either of our speakers, please. Last chance. No, thank you both very much. That's your bit done for the day. Right, any questions you'd like to ask the officers? Thank you, Councillor McNally.
Thank you, Chairman. You know, like you've already stated, we are the planning committee, and the facts are the facts really, not the other stuff. As far as I can say, this is the only argument for and against, if I'm right in saying this, is if it was a allocated green open space, which am I right in saying it isn't?
It's not an allocated open space, but it is allocated for sport and recreation. And there's a policy in the local plan whereby you can remove the sport and recreation facility. There's some tests that you have to go through. And one of those is that you would be providing alternative sport recreation provision elsewhere. So the argument is that obviously the bowls club's moved, it's gone next door, albeit that was in some time ago. The new community centre village hall has got open space around it which can be used for various leisure and recreation activities, and the section 106 agreement for the application would secure the gap funding for the play equipment to be provided at that site, which has got permission for a play area at the village, near the village hall. So our recommendation is on for approval is based on the fact that we think that complies with that element of SP 26, the sport and recreation policy.
So in terms of the new site that's been
Near the church.
near the church, I mean, from listening to the conversation, does it actually offer more to the village than what if it was just for a bowls club, it's very limited to a bowls club, whereas the new site is offering, you know,
Play
a whole range of things to do, and an area that you can actually play on.
Yes, so as I understand it, the area around the village centre, the community centre, or whichever name it is, they have village activity or can have village activities there. So there's a large green area. The play area would be there for the whole village to use, or children of the village to use. Whereas the site itself is privately owned. So whilst it retains its allocation of sport and recreation, we have no ability to force anybody to make it available for groups to use because it's privately owned, if that kind of answers your question.
Okay. We have further speaker, please. Thank you. Councillor Hall.
Right, it's called Memorial Lawns, but is it actually a memorial, or is it only a memorial in name only?
Yes, so the Memorial Hall and Lawn were a memorial, a World War I memorial, and I understand there was a plaque in the Memorial Hall doing that dedication. And when the applicant has advised in the information submitted with the application that when the new village hall community centre was provided, the memorial was moved from the Memorial Hall to the new village hall. That's where it is. So that dedication, so you are legally allowed to move these things. I'm not aware the lawn itself has got any plaques associated with it. The applicant has said there aren't any plaques or anything for the lawn itself. So I think it was classed as Memorial Hall with lawn. I think that was I'll call it a designation, but I don't know if that's quite the right word.
I was looking at the details that you sent us. It was there just as a name of the Memorial Lawn. Whereas I'm not entirely sure that you could fit two comfortable sized bungalows in keeping with the village there. That doesn't particularly building on the site itself.
Outline application.
Yeah. Okay.
Councillor Jones?
I haven't any questions to the officers. Can I speak?
Yeah,
We can't get involved with community politics on this. We've had a very eloquent speech from the lady regarding what has happened to this piece of land since 1920. It's not been declared as a village asset. It's an infill. And we've got a straightforward application to put houses on it, which people probably don't like. But we have no planning reasons why we shouldn't approve this application, as I can see it. I'm sure that there are funds available, and we know there's funds available for East Lindsey. There's about 5 different grants if they want a different defibrillator when you read some of these applications. But it's a very straightforward application for an outline planning permission on a piece of land that has really been waste, according to the information I've just received from that lady, and I recommend we approve this application. Thank you.
Councillor Hall?
I'm happy to second Councillor Jones.
Thank you very much. Any further speakers? Right, we're proposed and seconded for approval. Is there any other recommendation? Proposed and seconded for approval. Hang on. Yep. Yeah, you're happy there's a 106 agreement. I think this is very important, actually, personally, that the funds that are realised as and when and if they are only go back to the village near the facility near the church. And absolutely right. So that's, you're aware that that's included. Anyway, all those in favour, stick your hands up, please. Please shout. Anyone against? No, evidently not. Thank you. That's approved. Thank you all. I'd like to move on to item 6 on the agenda, which relates to the grammar school, an application from the grammar school. If we could have the relevant speakers, please. Thank you, County Councillor. I'd like to welcome all our speakers to the meeting, and we'll begin with a presentation, if we may, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Chairman. Item 6 is a Section 73 application seeking to vary several conditions, including the approved plans, hours of use, operational hours of floodlighting and mitigation measures associated with the creation of the 3G artificial grass pitch, hard standing area, storage container and floodlights, approved by this committee as per the officer's recommendation last year. Although the description includes several conditions, the pertinent matter here for consideration is a variation to the operational hours of use, seeking an extension to the existing hours of use from 8:30 to 9. This is weekdays only. This would also include a 15-minute wind down period, seeking to restrict all activities to no later than 9:15. It is at this junction where I draw members' attention to the supplementary papers, and in particular draft condition number 3, which should read, there shall be no activity or use after 9:15, rather than the 9:15 as stated in the committee report. The supplementary papers also include several comments following the last round of consultation objecting to the proposal, which should state 14 rather than the 8. A further amendment to the list of the approved plans omitting a section drawing has also been included. Lastly, there's also a typo at paragraph 3.1 on page 32 of the report. The reference to the site visit made by members was undertaken in May 24 and not October 23. That's when the application was received, as stated in the body report. The recommendation is to approve the application to allow use up to 9 o'clock with the provision of a 15-minute winding down period during weekdays only. The current restriction in relation to the use at weekends is to remain as previously approved. I'll now move on to the presentation. Just to refresh members' memories here, there is a small little alcove in the whole playing field site just to your west where the AGP will go. Down here along the road to the west is Lincoln Road. There is a small cul-de-sac where my mouse is here, which is Elsom Way, and also Upland Close to the north. As shown on the aerial, there is actually, there was a large building to the south. This has now been partially demolished, as you'll see in the photographs, and there is an extent permission there for 52 dwellings. A little bit in finer detail of where the artificial pitch will go, as you can see by the red line area. It also gives you a bit more scope of the distances between those properties on Lincoln Road and Upland Close. As for the approved plans, the new proposal includes a 6-metre fence running along the perimeter, along what is the southern boundary, and a 4.5-metre acoustic fence as well, running along what would be the west and northern perimeter fence. To remind members of what was previously approved, the embankment shown surrounding the pitch here is at 1.7 metres, with a mitigation was approved that there would be a 2-metre fence on top of that embankment. This plan shows it in slightly greater detail and how the pitch can be subdivided to accommodate several age groups up to adult football and how it may be used. Again, there is greater detail on where the perimeter fence is. The way that it would work, or they've suggested it would, the perimeter fence would come up to about, I think it's 4 metres, with an acoustic fence attached onto it. The plan here just shows a slight cross section of the embankments. From what you can work out here, although the mitigation measures are included, you can see that the land itself does actually descend away from what would be the northwestern corner of the site. Although they haven't got the clearest details, you can show this in the section. And at least on, as you can see, the acoustic fence being set back from the embankment will be slightly lower. The embankment is also to be retained, which is quite critical here, which would provide some visual relief to rather have a stark, what would be 6-metre fence around the whole site. The elevations here show you what would be erected. It'd be a timber acoustic fence up to here. You've got a security fence, a ball stopping one, and then also the perimeter fence, which is at 4.5 metres already. There are also the elevations of the container with the hard standing area to the east, which will just provide storage for balls and other sports equipment. This is more of an indicative plan of developments that they have approved and, that they have developed in the past, showing the 3D pictures and the kind of floodlights. These are only indicative, but just gives you an idea of what it may look like, especially this photo down here with an acoustic fence, of how it would work on the ground. Onto the photos. On the left here is the building that I showed you earlier that has been partially demolished. You can see the remnants of that building and the rubble. This is to the south of the site where there is an extant permission for 52 dwellings. This is that common boundary between where the pitch is and the 52 dwellings, whereas in the background you can see from here, there is the start of the tree lines and those properties along Lincoln Road. As you work your way around the site, heading in a northwards direction, you can see the tree line becomes a lot more of a powerful feature. And in the background, there is the only two-storey property that is along Upland Close itself. The pitch, for a bit of context, will not impede upon the triple jump area or these trees. It is roughly about 2 metres set in from there, coming in this location. You can also see from this photo that the hedgerow along that of Upland Close, it's not a strong landscape feature as it would be along to the west or the south. Bear with me. In the northwest corner, you can see that there is a number of pines and trees. It is well landscaped, especially along that western boundary where it becomes sparse. You can see the small gaps in the hedges as well, with most of the properties along Upland Close being bungalows. Again, this is of the same boundary looking the opposite direction, back towards the pine trees. For reference, I've made it there, the pitch itself is approximately 19 metres from this boundary in here. I mean, last time we did pace it out when we did visit the site, but I mean, where that would come, it is 19 metres in from there, which would make these properties as well somewhere closer towards the 29-metre mark. This is a view looking back towards the south. Again, as you can see, it is well landscaped. You can just see the remnants of the partially demolished building. And that's the end of the presentation.
Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome our speakers. We have Mrs. Sandra James, who's the applicant, and Mr. Tom Betts as developer, who I assume are speaking in support of it. Mr. Pickwell, who we've come to know, who is going to object, and we're delighted to welcome Councillor Avison, who to his eternal credit, in my view, has turned up to support his electorate during a week when he's had family bereavement and a lot of other things on his mind. But the first two speakers, you have 3 minutes between you. How you divide it up is up to you, but 3 minutes is about all you're going to get. So, ready when you are.
Dear Planning Committee, I am very pleased to report that the measures to protect neighbours from noise impacts has been refined since planning permission was granted in May last year. Revision B of the noise impact assessment supported the previous approval, and now the evaluation underpinning this application has reached revision J. This is because of the careful and considered dialogue between our acoustic consultants and the Council's environmental health advisors to make certain that the noise mitigation measures properly safeguard residential amenity for the requested extra period of use throughout the week. 4.5 metre high acoustic fencing will now be erected to the northern and western facility enclosure, 7% higher than before, and 6 metre high acoustic fencing will now be erected along the southern facility enclosure, 40% higher than before. The acoustic models and calculations to determine the appropriate fence heights aren't set against the limit of acceptability. They do now include some headroom, which ensures reliable conclusions, and all of the noise attenuation measures noted in the previous approval will still be applied. With the acoustic barrier fencing located in its regular position close around the facility enclosure, noise and light impacts will certainly be contained better, and the visual presence of the facility will be eased, and more significant soft landscaping and tree planting can be installed around the facility and onto the new grass mounds, which will grow to become an effective green screen to onlooking views. These changes would allow the community use up to 9 p.m. through the week, which is really important for local teams, for project sustainability, and to qualify for a major capital grant award request to the Football Foundation. Prospect of delivering the project is very poor without this extra time, so I hope you can agree that the technical improvements are credible and that the recommendation for approval may be accepted. Thank you.
Thank you. That's 2 minutes gone.
When I came to committee previously, I spoke about two elements. The first was about discharging our civic duty to promote health and well-being of the community, and this is set out in a legal document, the Articles of Association of our Trust, as signed off by the Secretary of State. I see the 3G pitch as a key part of this plan. The second was about being a good neighbour, and subsequently you can see that we have listened to feedback, worked with our advisors and put further measures in place to mitigate those concerns regarding noise and light. In March, we introduced Park Run onto this site. This has involved the site being accessible every Saturday morning. Park Run is not a race, but a social event focused on community and well-being, with no time limit and a commitment to inclusivity. So far, our site has welcomed Park Run on 28 Saturdays, benefited from the support of 412 individuals as volunteers, and recorded 5,489 people who finished the run.
Could you do a final sentence, please?
We hope that the consent of the committee to allow the additional 30 minutes will enable us to continue providing facilities for the community, and we have received no complaints or comments from our neighbours with the 5,000 people that have visited the site since March. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, Mr. Pickwell, you have 3 minutes to make your case and start whenever you're ready, please.
I'm speaking today on behalf of myself and the residents that live in the surrounding and adjoining properties to this development. We strongly object to the requested amendments by the developers of this project to extend the previous hours approved of use by the planning committee. The planning portal shows the strong objections to these amendments, requesting later finishing times. At the point of writing, I see no public supporting comments. We have had this development nightmare impacting on our lives since the first letter received in September 2023. We attended a planning meeting April 24 and again in May 24, following a site visit to the proposed development and surrounding homes. The development was approved with restricted hours of use imposed upon it. Although obviously devastating and concerned with the approval, the restrictions on the hours of use did give us some assurance that the planning committee had shown some consideration to the impact this development will have on our health and well-being of the neighbouring residents. For the grammar school to then come back requesting amendments, taking the time back to the original planning request, obviously not accepting the planning committee's original approval, shows no consideration or respect to their residential neighbours or the planning committee. What has changed to even consider an amendment to the original planning approval? There will still be negative impact on our lives and properties. We are still the same residents and properties surrounding this development. Our homes are still less than 29 metres from now proposed even higher acoustic fence to the north boundary of the development. The noise nuisance is still ongoing and in fact will be further impacting upon us if later finishing times are approved. The proposed higher acoustic fence will only make the proposed obtrusive design further outside the general character of the area. Light pollution will also be extended by longer use of the floodlighting. We have no confidence that when the development is completed, that the approved hours of use and general management yet to be approved will be adhered to long term. The grammar school statement that they will lose funding in the amendments if the amendments are not approved. There are other sporting facilities in the town which are more appropriate for this type of development, and these noise and light issues would not apply and enable more early community use. Please take into consideration with what we have already had to accept with the last development approval and not have to deal with further stress and worry by approving these planning amendments. Is the next stage of our lives going to be spent monitoring and complaining to the authorities about noise and obtrusive actions? This is not the way we wish to spend our lives in a very pleasant area of the town called Horncastle. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, Councillor Avison, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, officers and members of the committee. My comments are based on emails and discussions I've had from residents within the town, and my fellow ward councillors are also aware, and they've not made me aware of any comments to themselves. So therefore, I'm sorry we find ourselves here again discussing this application, especially when nothing major has changed. It feels as though the integrity of the planning process in this committee is being undermined. Why should your original decision be reopened when circumstances remain the same? You've heard from Mr Pickwell, and I fully support his comments. Local residents have endured months of stress. They accepted a compromise in good faith, believing the matter was settled, only to find the applicants returning with further demands. The good neighbours we heard about previously now seem determined to push the boundaries. We are only considering changes, so I'll focus on the noise impact report at section 8.2 of the report. This appears to be based on an open field site, not a built-up residential area that doesn't seem to be representative of this application. Sound behaves differently in enclosed spaces. As we know in town, it echoes and amplifies, travels further in built-up areas. We will only get a true picture once this is actually up and running, and any changes to operating hours will require close monitoring as well as the current agreement. I can assure you that residents will be vigilant. They will be concerned in reporting to the Environmental Health and Planning Enforcement. I do note in the conditions that there is a requirement for a noise monitoring officer. It doesn't say who it is, so it would be interesting to find out who this person will report to, or is it just a tick box exercise for the process? The proposed 6-metre fence is said to have no visual impact. You probably remember on the first one, I think 4 metres was the height of this room, so imagine half again. I'm sure those living adjacent would strongly disagree. They currently overlook open fields. They were aware a 4-metre fence was going to be in place, but increasing this to 6 metres feels excessive and intrusive. Mr Hallett mentioned a 29-metre from the boundary. I'm not sure if that's to the pitch rather than the fence. I've had a note from residents that it's less than 29 metres to the fence, but you'll probably come back to that. Also, section 8.5 refers to funding as a reason for changes. I'm not convinced that financial considerations should influence planning decisions. It appears that the requests for changes are only to secure the external funding for the benefit of the school, the possible use for the community being the tool used to achieve this. Will we be here again in the future for further changes if and when the money runs out? At the request of emails from residents mentioned on page 24 of the initial report that's submitted with the application, it mentioned parking, that there is ample parking or will be with the site. We've heard also about the park run, but we've seen emails where the park run attendees are actually being asked to park away from the site because of issues with parking, which puts pressure on the town centre, which I've actually witnessed myself. So these car parks are needed for the well-being of the shops, but that's actually causing quite a problem at the moment. We also seen mention of a management committee. At the initial meeting, I requested that this include hopefully a local resident and a councillor who has no conflicts of interest. I've not seen any progress on this, and I'm not sure if officers are aware of that. The report speaks of improving health and well-being for users, but what about the health and well-being of neighbouring residents? Their concerns deserve equal consideration. I did highlight an issue with the portal this morning, which Mr Hallett has rectified, and I believe you've had sight of some objections that weren't actually visible online this morning. Most of these are talking about lighting, and extending hours remains of concern, and there are multiple objections. If I'd had any people wishing to support the sites, I would also have included, but I've only had people objecting to myself. So in conclusion, I see no valid reason to overturn your original decision. I urge you to stand firm, support the residents and refuse these proposed changes. Let's not forget the applicants won't be living next to this development. These residents will be. The impact falls entirely on the community for the benefit of a few. And thank you for listening. And thank you, Mr Chairman, for your kind words.
Thank you. Thanks to all our speakers. Excellent level, if I may say so. Right, would any member wish to ask a question of any speaker, please? Could I ask one? I think I could, couldn't I? Could I ask, Mrs James, you emphasised the fact that you wanted to work with your neighbours in your little presentation. Can you not see that this is a conflict of that statement? How is it you couldn't manage with the previous with the success of the previous application, you can see that this has caused upset and some dismay. It doesn't quite seem to, the two things don't seem to quite line up, please.
Thank you for your question. We are a good neighbour and we operate in that way with all of our sites. We have good housekeeping in terms of the sites that we manage, and we are kind and considerate. We keep our neighbours informed of what's going on at school. In terms of working with them regarding this particular project, we do commit to having a committee. Clearly it hasn't been in place yet because the project hasn't come to fruition. We do commit to having neighbour and councillor as part of that, would welcome it. We haven't heard of any issues in terms of what's been going on our site recently. We've over 5,000 people there. In terms of ensuring our neighbours share their thoughts with us, we started our consultation much earlier than we approached yourselves as a planning committee to gather thoughts and feedback. We have in fact had an open consultation on site and have met with our neighbours separately on 2 occasions. So we do want them to be a part of this, and I hope that we are able to move forward and reassure them that we'll be very mindful of what's happening in the community going forward.
Why have you felt the need to alter these amendments?
In order to provide the facilities, it's a requirement that we have an element of community use, and to do that we need a number of hours after the school site is vacant, and so in order to do that it would require the 9 o'clock finish.
So effectively you can't get the grant if you don't alter the hours, is that the essence of it?
That's quite realistic, yes.
Thank you for that. Any further questions? Councillor Kemp, please.
Thank you, Chair. Another one for Mrs. James. I can appreciate from the residents' perspective.
Can you get a bit nearer your mic?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I can appreciate from the residents' perspective that, you know, this could be perceived as shifting baselines. What assurances can you give to residents that it's not going to shift further? Thank you.
We very much hope that the community will utilise the site in the hours that are available. As I said, we'll have a monitoring committee with inclusion of a resident representative and a councillor. It's something that we want to be able to do in partnership with our community, and so going for further time would not be helpful. We have a programme of use that's been put forward as part of our application to the Football Foundation, which clearly states the number of community groups and clubs using the facility, and that would enable us to fulfil the requirements for the community use. So we currently have no need to ask for anything further than 9 o'clock, and the community use is there. People have notionally committed to that in the hours that are available up to 9 o'clock. And just also to say, I understand that some other 3G sites operate until 10 o'clock in the evening, and that's where we started out because that was a kind of an accepted position for a 3G, and of course we want to be good neighbours and compromise, so 9 o'clock would enable us to not go on until late in the evenings, but also to make the provision available in Horncastle and East Lindsey.
Thank you. Any further questions to anybody? Hold on. Sure. Seems to be many things you could ask, but anyway. Right, we'd like to thank all our speakers. You're welcome to retire to the back benches, and Councillor Avison sadly must go and watch it all on the television. Okay. Yes, yeah. Right, any questions for the officers, please?
I've no questions for the comment. I mean, we have spent an awful lot of time debating this, and quite frankly, I don't know what negotiations a school could do with neighbours, because there's never ever going to be an opportunity to agree. You can see by the complaints that they're exactly the same as they were last time, and there was no way that I think the school, whatever they decided to do, would be able to mitigate with the neighbourhood. What I would say is that we've got expert evidence here and expert reports. Obviously, this company, this Acoustic Consultant Limited, is telling us that this will mitigate from the noise. There will be an increased fence. I know the neighbours don't particularly like the idea of it, but that's what they want to mitigate the noise. They can't have it both ways. I think we're in a very difficult position to be able to argue with the experts. I certainly don't know anything about acoustics where I could argue with the experts. And I think it's going to have to be a wait and see. So I would recommend we approve with the officers' recommendations. I don't think we have any choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bristow.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'd be happy to second it on the basis that I think the applicant has put in ample mitigation measures for the additional half an hour, and noting that noise nuisance under law appears to be about noise above a permitted level from 11 p.m. So this is well within that. And I understand that's from a dwelling, but I could be in the bungalow next door. I could buy a bungalow on that street and play my music until 11 p.m. every night. Whereas this is 9 p.m. and I think that is, I think that's well within. And knowing what I do about the Football Association funding, there absolutely are certain numbers you have to be able to provide in order to support that funding for community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hall.
Okay, I know you seconded it, but nobody's proposed it yet.
I have. Councillor Jones.
Okay. I do agree. The sound acoustics that they're putting on here is everything that the residents actually want. I think the biggest thing is timing. It's the biggest issue on that one. I'm not sure we should be changing the recommendation on the timing. All the rest of it, I'm absolutely happy with. I don't know which way you want to go with it.
Okay. Any further speakers? Have we another recommendation? Proposed and seconded for approval. All those in favour of approval, please show. Woohoo. How many have we got? Yep. Those against approval. Oh dear, dear, dear. Well, I've abstained so far, but are you abstaining, Councillor McNally? Yep. Yep. Is it me then?
Yes, you.
With the greatest reluctance, I would say this application is approved. But I must express my dismay at the quality of the presentation and the fact that the applicants have felt able to come back. Surely they can see what distress this is causing the residents. I think they ought to square themselves up, please, and address this matter in a professional manner. But that's a personal observation. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. Yeah, thank you very much, all our speakers. Their hearts, haven't it? Well, they're not professional at all, are they? Such a nice lady that was. She'd be ringing me up and give me a bollocking to know. Pity. Tell you, I don't know what's the world coming to. Oh, that's surprised these two lot aren't voting. Oh, anyway, we're sorry. Right, we move on to the next application, if we may, which is the forge at application number 7. Gentlemen, please, on the agenda. We've got Mr. Holden, who is the applicant. I'd like to welcome him. Right, we begin with the officer's presentation, please.
Thank you, Chairman. This is an application for outline planning permission for the erection of up to 9 dwellings. Means of access are part of the proposal, but all the other reserved matters are for later consideration if permission is granted. First, if I could just draw members' attention to the supplementary paper.
Thank you, Mr. Hallett.
Firstly, that just to note that the condition numbering, I'm afraid it went a little awry when it was published on the agenda. They should be numbered sequentially 1 to 7. There's also a need for a further condition, which is just to deal with any unidentified contamination found on the site if the development were to take place, and there's a draft wording for that on the agenda. And additionally, received some further comment, additional comment from the council's conservation officer in respect to the forge itself and its heritage value. Basically, it acknowledges that there has been some historic interest in the building. There is some visually that can be seen through its brickwork and its door casing, the boundary railings to the site. However, the viewpoint is that due to changes that have taken place to the building over time, its appearance, its significance have been damaged, have been harmed, and consequently raises no objection to the loss of the forge, but does suggest a condition that would require historic building recording, and therefore I'd also suggest that that's added to the recommendations of further condition. Moving on to the presentation. So the main road, Stickney, the A16, centre of the photo. This is the site here where the cursor is on the left-hand side. It's not the clearest aerial view, I apologise for that, but hopefully you'll see a little bit clearer here. Usual red line defining the site boundary. The building in the northeast corner there, that's the forge. So again, existing site plan, forge in the northeast corner, residential properties opposite and adjacent to the site, north-south, open countryside behind. Mentioned it's an outline application, so this plan is purely indicative, other than in terms of the potential access arrangements. But what it does show is that you can get that number of units on the site in a comfortable manner without harming amenity, etc., providing good levels of sort of amenity provision for each unit. But I stress it is indicative. So photos of the site itself. Again, really just to give context, the forge is the building you can see the gable of there, and a flat roofed extension on the right hand side. This is the land here. That's the forge as it is. This is the site to the left. Similar vein, really, just showing the context. It's right in the heart of the village. Again, just showing it is an open grassed area of land, really, with a few ornamental trees in it. Looking out from the side across the road, so you can see a mix of housing there, different sites, bungalows, 2-storey. The site itself, again, looking back out, and then just 2 of the forge, one of the rear and one of the frontage and the gable to it. And that's it, Chairman.
Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome our one speaker, Mr. Michael Holden, who's the applicant. You have 3 minutes in which to state your case, please, whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Michael Holden. I'm here as the applicant and the executor of Joseph Raymond Picker, whose property tax this application is based on. I'm aware of various objections and would like to make a few points. One of the points has already been covered by the councillor about the heritage issue. The forge is not a listed and is a non-designated heritage asset. It has UPVC windows and door. The roof has recently been replaced with new style roof tiles. In its present state, the building is unmortgageable due to the rear of the building only being single brick. The external walls do not have adequate damp proofing. It is my understanding that the actual forge building was adjacent to the present building. With regards to inadequate parking, the lay-by pull-in will not be affected by the proposed development, and the concerns raised re adequate parking on development will be covered when the detailed plans are submitted for the erection of the properties. There are complaints about the increase of danger of flooding. My cousins and nephews have lived in the village and surrounding area for over 50 years, and they cannot remember the lawn and gardens ever flooding. Anglian Water have accepted the agent's suggestions of soakaways, but again, this can be confirmed when the actual planning applications are put before the committee. There was also comments about the out of keeping with the character of the area. Within 100 yards of this application, there is a development which was designed by the agent for this application. The application shows a mixture of semi-detached and detached housing to try and meet the housing requirements of the village and surrounding areas. The proposed buildings will be will be in keeping with the ones already inhabited further along. Also comments regarding parking. Again, the loss of the lay-by, there will be no change to the pull-in lay-by by the proposed development. There's already been signage which you've seen to keep clear for access to my late uncle's garage. One other point regarding the historic building, according to Zeta, the forge, the building that we've actually want to demolish was built in 1953. Comments regarding heritage issues have also been relevantly covered in this application. Overdevelopment. I cannot comment on the overdevelopment for this area as I do not live there, but many of my cousins do, and they are fully supportive of the proposal. Amenity impact. Again, I cannot comment as I do not live in the village, but surely with more people coming into the village, it would support the proposals for additional amenities and services for the community. There's also comment on the impact on neighbours' amenities. The plans show that both sides of the development are either 30-foot conifer trees or a large laurel hedge. With regards to the new access, an acoustic fence at the front could be included as a condition of the final planning application. There's also comment regarding the trees that we cut down. As you'll have seen from the photographs, they were actually the trees were cut down, but the necessary survey birds nesting was adhered to, and 2 trees were left as they had nesting birds at the time. The trees that were cut down were of the Leylandii variety, which my uncle had sculptured to try and keep them tidy.
Nearly at the end, if you could, please.
Yeah, last comment. Too many developers in Stickney. Again, as a non-resident, I do not think it prudent for me to comment. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you. Anybody like to ask our speaker a question? Bear in mind, this is outline application. Most things seem to have been covered, don't they? Nobody like to ask a speaker a question? Okay. Anybody like to ask the officers a question? Thank you. Councillor McNally.
Thank you, Chairman. Could we just go back to the opposite side of the road, please? Yeah, there. So I think some of the objections were in terms of the street scene or the character of the area, and if you look at the buildings opposite there, there isn't a specific character to that particular area. You know, they've got biggish buildings, bungalows, L-shaped bungalow, you know, etc., etc. And I think if we go back to the forge, I know it's subjective, but I really don't see that as any sort of heritage asset whatsoever. And I would probably happily demolish it myself. No. But no, in all seriousness, I can't, I don't see the justification for that being heritage or of any significant weight to save from the design or anything. I'm quite happy to propose the paper as written.
Thank you. I think there's some conditions that have been proposed. Are you happy with as well? Are they on the supplementary? Just have a look anyway. Sorry, who was next? Thank you. Councillor Macmillan.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to second Councillor McNally's proposal.
Okay, thank you. Councillor.
Yes, can we go back to the outline of the new dwellings, please?
You know, it is outlined.
I know it's outlined, but I just, yeah, okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? It's proposed and seconded for approval. All with it. Are you happy with these things on the heritage recording? Do you want somebody want to read out what we voted on?
Sorry, Jim, just to clarify then, the two additional conditions were proposed, basically, one as per the supplementary paper, which is about cover any unexpected contamination, and the second one is just a historic building recording exercise for when and if the forge is demolished as requested by the Conservation Officer.
Happy? Please say yes.
Yeah, I'd debate the last one, to be honest with you.
Well, I think, yeah, it's the evidence is.
But if that's what you say, that's what you say.
Proposed and seconded for approval with those two conditions or observations. All those in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's approved. Okay, thank you. Final item, ladies and gentlemen. One of our own. So we'll kick off if we may. When you're ready.
Thank you, Chairman. Everybody knows this site. So it's the hub where we are now, the land at the frontage of the site. It's a planning application by the council, hence the reason it's here before you, for installation of ground mounted solar PV array and solar array on a carport together with the appropriate infrastructure for that. The recommendation is for approval subject to conditions. So the site, aerial photo, the hub here, the car parking area to the front of the building, and then what is presently sort of a bit of an overgrown green area to the front there, and that's predominantly where the solar array would be, although there's a row that's proposed within the car parking area that would be the carports. So red line, blue line over the site again, so it's this frontage part of the site primarily. Layout. So again, just to reiterate, the lines of the array would be here in the front. So you've got five rows that are presented to the front, one shorter one and two, and the four longer ones, and then one row immediately to the north there, which is where the carports would be with the solar panels on their roof. A little bit more detail of that. Landscaping, frontage shown there, and again just showing this is a planting plan basically, so landscaping frontage, existing trees that are retained at the front, some additional trees provided, and this is meadow planting, wildflower planting that helps secures improved enhanced BNG. And then just the drawings that show the arrays. So these are the carport details. So these sit on top, so there's sort of a shelter to the car parking area, cars underneath, and the array on the roof of the of the carports. CCTV cameras are sort of accompany this as part of the infrastructure. They're intended to be placed on some of the existing lampposts. So again, just showing you that here. They're sort of 2-3/4 of the way up. And the elevations, plan views of the ground mounted arrays. So I'm sure everybody's quite familiar with those, but and again, the carport detail. So we're back to the carport detail on that one. And the ground mounted detail, side elevation, elevational drawings of those. Photos of the site, frontage of the site, quite substantial hedgerow, trees within there. Within the site itself, you can see the neighbouring properties. That's the current condition. It is like that at the moment. It's fairly sort of overgrown and unkempt at the moment on the front. Again, looking back towards the hub building, back up here, behind the name of the house. The car park to the south, this is the site boundary. As beyond there, you've got the arrays of the ground mounted arrays, and the hedgerow to the is on the road frontage is that one there where the cursor is. Similar view, just showing, and the line of the carport array would be here where that line of car parking is. And view of the site again. And again, just for context, that's the line of the where the carport array would be, the hub, and that's it. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you, Councillor McNally.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, I'm surprised enforcement haven't been about the mess that is.
Excellent.
So far. I haven't got an issue with it whatsoever. I think it was short-sighted of East Lindsey not to have done it in the first place, and there was told by numerous people throughout the time that they should be done. So now we're 5 years down the line, it's cost more money, and they are doing it anyway. So, you know, maybe the people should listen in future.
Putting things a bit strongly there.
Well, the one thing that it's not on the condition, but on 7.18, it's got breeding birds on there, and it says scrub clearance to be conducted outside of the bird nesting season where possible. And well, it happened to me earlier this year, but when I was cutting some brambles up, there was some birds nesting in there. And I think actually, if anything, we should not say where possible. It should be, you know, full stop. You do it outside the bird nesting season, and that's it. And it might also kick the backside to get it done quicker.
Yeah. Are you doing any proposing?
Oh yeah, I'll propose to them, but with that condition on.
Yeah, Councillor Bristow. Sorry, Dave.
Yes, thank you. I had Councillor McNally's concern as well, about breeding birds. My other question is about the trees, the cherry trees, and I read the recommendation of the previous horticulturalist. I want to be sure that those trees, if removed, are replaced immediately and not done longer, and for something to consider in the future. I do believe that putting in this solar array, as a member of the public stated, without battery storage is very, very short-sighted if we make hay while the sun shines. So I'd like that to be minuted, that the suggestion is to have a battery added, and that happens as a part of the development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are you seconding or not? Shouldn't encourage you, but.
I'll second the application, Chairman. I am a bit concerned about newts, bats and owls, obviously, but I'll second the proposal.
I just, is there a process whereby the councillor intending buying any sheep to maintain the under the array. Anyway, sorry. Right, proposed and seconded. Oh, go on. Sorry. Councillor Kent.
It's not planning really, but and I'm
Neither sheep.
yeah, indeed, yeah. I mean, I look at the site and I look at our housing needs and I look at that bit of land there, and I also look at the three buildings that are out here or whatever they are, and it just strikes me. I mean, should we not be building houses on them with solar panels on the roof? Yeah, so that's my observation. It's not a planning consideration, I don't think, but it's an interesting one.
Food for thought. Thank you. There's a lot of intelligent observations coming out of the planning committee today. I'm quite surprised, really. But anyway, there we are. Right, proposed and seconded for approval. Sorry,
Councillor. I had my hand up.
You did
quite early on.
You did. I apologise. Got carried away.
Yeah, I was going to second the proposal.
Thank you.
I do agree with putting in a battery bank system, if that could be as a recommendation. That hasn't been put on yet. So if the proposer or seconder want to put that on as part of their recommendations.
Are we going to ask them to look at doing that? Is that what you're proposing, or doing it?
Oh, I'm asking for the proposer and the seconder to do it, because those are the only two who can.
Yes. Councillor McNally, are you happy that some comment along those lines, that battery storage should be considered?
I think I don't particularly want it as a just like Councillor Bristow said, just tell the relevant person, and
it's in the minutes, but
they can.
Are you relevant?
Decide.
Sorry. Oh, perhaps not. Okay.
The only problem is we don't want to delay the application.
No.
So, you know, it can be a comment to officers rather than part of the proposal.
Just say.
Chairman, if it helps, we could add a sort of an advisory note on any decision, just suggesting that the applicant looks at that for future.
Well done. Yeah, are you both happy-ish with that? Yeah. Proposed and seconded for approval. All those in favour? That's application is approved. Thank you all for that. You've had access to look at the appeals decided and delegated decisions. The date of the next meeting will be the night after bonfire night. So if you've survived, we look forward to seeing you all then. Thank you all very much.
Are we going to get a proposal to put another
Chairman
farm on the other side?
Sorry?
We're going to get a proposal to put the other part of the solar farm on the other side.
There you are.